Let's start at the top of the show with Vitaly. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. You're in 20 countries every year talking about teaching people how to be better at what they do already, and you're also an investment banker. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Let me back up, give our audience a more rounded view of yourself, and let's get into accelerated startups.
Sure. So I was born in Soviet Union, in Odessa, Ukraine, and my parents brought me to San Francisco when I was 8 years old. I grew up in Silicon Valley, went to the same high school as Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. So everything, here started very early for me in the startup world. I went through the dot-com wave. I went through the last 15, 20 years here with the different waves. And really, I'm kind of a prime example of the Silicon Valley mindset, the go big or go home, and tackle really big, hairy problems and build innovative technology. So what I do now and for the past few years is try to export that frame of reference, that mindset, to lots of very talented, very smart engineers all over the world who come from maybe a more traditional business background where the value system is quite different than the type of things that we go after here in Silicon Valley.
What about M&A, venture funds, and specific sectors relating to your book, Accelerated Startup?
So Accelerated Startup is really a book. It's kind of a manual to the Silicon Valley mindset. It's targeted at entrepreneurs anywhere in the world who have a dream of building a product, and it is a step-by-step to go from product to company, essentially from idea to product to company in the various steps, and funding the company and building the team, in making some choices and building something really scalable that can go all the way.
What are the future technologies, or say the next industrial revolution, according to you?
Well, certainly artificial intelligence is an area. It's a bit of a buzzword. Essentially, it's automation. It's automation of a lot of things that have been done by humans in the past, will be increasingly more automated in the near future. That means that things can be done faster. It also means that some professions will be quite disrupted. So, and that permeates every single sector. You can already see it heavily in the financial industry and others, and manufacturing as well. Certainly, manufacturing itself is quite interesting because with commercial 3D printing, which is not publicly well known much yet, but I spent the last couple of years at HP and got a good taste for what's coming in 3D printing world on the commercial side. It is going to disrupt manufacturing in a lot of really positive ways, where U.S. will become a manufacturing leader again because you'll be able to manufacture much closer to the customer. But it also means that these factories will be a lot less human and a lot more automated. So those are a couple of core areas. Certainly a lot of really exciting and interesting things happening in healthcare. You will see breakthroughs in the next few years and already happening that will be on par with the discovery of the germ theory or beyond that. We're talking about nanobots in your bloodstream and a lot of other really, really exciting, interesting, somewhat scary things, but overall medicine will change quite a bit. And there's a lot of innovation across all sectors, in finance, in transportation, logistics. A lot of things are going to be changing, and at the same time, they're exciting. On the other hand, they will change the way our economy works, which may will very likely affect large swaths of our labor force.
Give us the biggest hit first.
Biggest hit first. Well, autonomous driving is certainly a big topic of interest right now. You can say there are something like 4 or 5 million professional drivers in this country. It is second biggest single kind of category of profession after retail clerks, who, by the way, will also be affected by automation. Mm-hmm. And there are just as many people relying on that profession, diners and gas stations and things along the way. All of that will be largely automated away very, very quickly. So the interesting thing is we're now hitting the third industrial revolution. And, some people say, well, with every new industrial revolution, we had a lot of these professions being automated away, but look at all these new things we got to do. The main difference is that the previous two industrial revolutions took about three generations to go through. We're going through this one much, much quicker. So we're leaving behind a huge part of the population that won't be able to adapt quick enough. You're not going to take somebody with a high school education or less and turn them into a software developer overnight. It's just not going to happen. These people don't have the background. And then education is really, really a big focus area for me, because that's the only way we'll be able to keep up with the demand and with the complexity of these future categories and future labor categories, especially. On the one hand, we need 500,000 developers in this country, and that's why a lot of companies go to Europe, Eastern Europe especially, and Southeast Asia to find software talent, software development talent, because there's just not enough of it in the U.S. On the other hand, it's not something that easy for somebody to just pick up overnight. It takes many years of education.
Sounds like
so. That's the thing that keeps me up at night, I should say.
I can, yeah, as the catchphrase is, but it seems to me that AI, deep machine learning, regarding re-education of these huge swaths of our population that's going to be left behind is going to be a big thing. I can see that happening. But let me change gears for a second. Silicon Valley, the global clusters of innovation. What do you mean by that?
So a cluster of innovation is what is required for any particular industry, right? So any industry, as it goes through several generations of its development, you have various different players in a particular region. In Silicon Valley, since right after World War II, innovation and technology has been a big focus area that was driven by Stanford, by Frederick Terman there, by the U.S. government, Defense Department investing and being the first customer for the first 20 years. So really fascinating history. And what that's developed over the course of the last 70 years is that you have the entrepreneurs with experience. You have all the service providers like lawyers and accountants, et cetera, that are specialized to these kind of companies. You have venture capital, the Wall Street of venture capital is here. You have large corporations that are innovation and technology driven, that have thousands of employees that specialize in this. So Bay Area is about a 7.5 million population total, and about a quarter of those people work directly in technology and innovation. Another half or so are their spouses, and then you have kids and retired people. So we're highly specialized in that here, much like in Hollywood, you may have a highly specialized cluster of people in the entertainment industry, or New York more in the finance industry and advertising. And you have this phenomenon all over the world. What's really special about Silicon Valley is not just the capital that we have here, the venture capital, but you have about 50,000 director-level managers who have experience of going from zero to hero with a technology company, kind of from idea to an IPO or a big sale and scaling those companies. That's something that you cannot replace, that type of experience.
Got it.
So what that means in turn, we have a lot of, everybody comes here if they're trying to scale, go from 20 people to 150 people to 1,000 people in a matter of a few months or a year.
Vitaly, I want to apologize. I couldn't get to all of the questions that I had stacked up for you today, but I'll extend an invitation to come back, and let's get through the rest of them on the next round, okay?
It would be my pleasure.
Mine too. You've been a great guest. Vitaly Golomb, Managing Director, Global Head of Principal Investments at IEG Investment Banking Group. But go to golomb.net and learn how pitching like a boss is something we all need to know, and the keys to successful designing of products. We'll be right back on the other side of this break with Lonnie Kochian. Well, you've been listening to Michael Yorba on CEO Money. We'll be right back.